sway places with her, because I truly believe that Nina should be speaking you out, and here she comes. Let's give a round of applause, a huge round of applause. Is she? Nina, 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 Nina.
South Carolina! Baby! Oh my God. Killer Mike took the words out of my mouth. You know what I'm saying? I'm glad he said it like that. Now I don't have to say it. South Carolina. So nothing but love for you. And you know, my grandmother used to say that I can show you better than I can tell you. Hello, somebody. Now, we gonna do what our sisters and brothers in Iowa did. Hello, somebody. We gonna do what our sisters and brothers in New Hampshire did. Hello, somebody. We gonna do what our sisters and brothers in Nevada did when they dropped the mic. Hello, somebody. A multiracial, multicultural, multigenerational coalition of conscious-minded people on the move have given Senator Bernard Sanders the popular vote. Hello, somebody. So when folks want to know who is the most electable, let me see. I'm glad you asked. It might be the man that won Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada. And here we come rolling on into South Carolina. Now, we just passed Ash Wednesday, as many of you know. And within the Christian tradition, there's a scripture that says that you will know the tree by the fruit that it bears. And in order for a tree to bear fruit, it has to have been planted for a while. What we know about Senator Bernie Sanders, that in the words of Dr. Cornel West, that he is a long-distance runner for justice. Hello, somebody. See, he's not new to this, he's true to this. Hello, somebody. Now, we can go way back to what he did in his 20s, or we can go ahead and fast forward and talk about what he is doing right now. He is the person who introduced the Stop Bezos Act in the U.S. Senate. We got Congressman O'Connor who partnered up with him in the House of Representatives. And what Senator Sanders did, he didn't wait until he becomes president of the United States of America. See, he doesn't have a castle view, he has a street level view. Come on, somebody. And what he was able to do with the Fight for 15 and SEIU was to get 400,000 of our closest family and friends a $15 an hour minimum wage increase. Hello, somebody. Some of you may remember that last year our Walmart sisters and brothers, they could have selected from any of the 100 Democrats running for the presidency last year, but they selected Senator Bernie Sanders to go to the stakeholders meeting and speak up on their behalf. Hello, somebody. So what the senator is proposing is not radical, it's right on time. If you need health care, Medicare for all is not radical, it's right on time. If you need reform in a legal system that is racist to the core, that sees black men as somehow more criminal than anybody else, stepping in and saying that we will have justice finally in this system, it's not radical, it's time. Legalizing marijuana is not radical, it's right on time. Expunging records of people who went down on a BS drug charge, and I'm not talking about Bernie Sanders, is not radical, it's making sure that women finally get our whole damn dollar is not radical, it's making sure we have a humane immigration system is not radical, it's Making sure that we pay our teachers finally at least $60,000 a year is not radical, it's right on time. Making sure that our babies can be educated, no matter who their parents are or not, is not radical, it's right on time. Baby, making sure that finally we put the investments back on Main Street is not radical, it's come on, somebody. So see, some of these folks ain't got the same vision. But Senator Sanders has the same type of vision. And in the words of Congresswoman Barbara Jordan, what the people want is simple. They want an America as good as its promise. So when the senator says that he is coming for the greed of Wall Street, that he is coming for the greed of the pharmaceutical industry, that he is coming for the greed of the fossil fuel industry, that is not radical, baby. It's right on time. We need a right on time leader. And he knows that he cannot do this alone. He needs people like you in front of him, behind him, and beside him. Our movement is strong because it is multiracial, multicultural, multi-ethnic, and multi-gender. And guess what? The power structures of this nation cannot stop a conscious-minded people on the move. We are a right on time people. Hello, somebody. So I don't know about you, but if you believe that you deserve to live a good life, that if you have children, they deserve to live a good life, then we understand unequivocally that we will never get this kind of moment back, that this is a Eugene Debs moment. Hello, somebody. Right on time. Right on time. Right on time. So can you do something for me? Lift one hand for yourself and another hand for somebody else. The great Dr. Maya Angelou once said, have the courage to stand up for yourself and then the courage to stand up for somebody else. And with these hands, we will have Medicare for all. With these hands, we will have college for all. With these hands, we will cancel student debt. With these hands, we will cancel medical debt. With these hands, women will get their whole damn dollar. With these hands, we will have humane immigration reform. With these hands, we will reform a legal system that is unjust. With these hands, we will have a Green New Deal. With these hands, we will have transcendence. And with these hands, we will elect Senator Bernard Sanders, the 46th President of the United States of America.
Thank you, Columbia. This is our last event in South Carolina. We have been all over this state in small towns and the large cities, and we're so appreciative of the hospitality and the support we've been getting. So thank you, South Carolina. And I'm very proud to have some outstanding members of the legislature who are here right now. I want to thank Representative Wendell Gilliard, Representative Caesar McKnight, Representative Justin Bamberg, Representative and a number of other members of the legislature who are not here. Let me also thank Black Hillock for their band, for their music. Let me thank Representative Ivory Thigpen for all the great work that he does. Thank Travis Washington for his remarks. Thank my old friend Gus Newport, former mayor of Berkeley, California. And thank somebody who has become an increasingly close friend a wonderful actor, a great American, Danny Glover. And let me thank one of the rising young political stars in this country, and that is Mayor Chokwe Lumumba of Jackson, Mississippi. And let me thank one of the great rap stars in this country, Killer Mike. And let me thank Senator Nina Turner. We're here today for two purposes. Number one, we are united in understanding that we have got to defeat the most dangerous president in the modern history of America. We have to defeat him, and we will defeat him. We will defeat him because the American people are sick and tired of a president who is a pathological liar. They're sick and tired of a president who is running a corrupt administration. And I'll give you an example, a very close example of why we are going to beat Donald Trump. Trump is here today in Charleston, South Carolina. Now, all of you know there is a global healthcare crisis taking place right now with the coronavirus. Countries all over the world are working frantically to figure out how they can control the virus, how we can get a vaccine to deal with the virus. And here in America, obviously, we've got to do the same. One might think that in the midst of a major healthcare crisis, the President of the United States would be assembling doctors and scientists and researchers. Not Donald Trump. He is here in South Carolina for one reason: to disrupt the Democratic primary. That's why he's here. He hopes that he could get a little media attention taken away from the Democratic candidates. How petty, how pathetic is that? So I say to Donald Trump, don't worry about the Democratic primary, because we're going to beat you. Start worrying about the coronavirus and the healthcare crisis in America. Do your job as president. But it is not just that Trump is a petty individual or a liar. He is a fraud as well. He came to South Carolina in 2016, as you'll all recall, and he said, I am going to provide health care for everybody. Remember that? He lied. Instead of providing health care for everybody, he has tried to throw 32 million Americans off the health care they already have. Trump said that his health care proposal was that his tax proposal was going to benefit working families and not the wealthy. He lied. 83% of the benefits go to the top 1% over a 10-year period. Trump said, as you'll recall, that he was a different type of Republican. He was not going to cut Medicaid or Medicare or Social Security. He lied. The budgets that he has presented call for massive cuts to Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security. Trump, as a private businessman, loved the undocumented. Do you know that? You see, right now, as president, because he's trying to divide us up, he tells us that we're supposed to hate the undocumented. But when he was a private businessman, he loved the undocumented because he hired hundreds of them at low wages on his resorts. Trump tells us we should be opposed to the outsourcing of good jobs. Well, as a private businessman, he built his factories not in the United States, but in India, China, Turkey, Bangladesh, and Mexico. You know, Abraham Lincoln said, that you can fool some of the people some of the time, and you can fool some of the people all of the time. But you can't fool all of the people all of the time. And we're going to defeat Trump because we are putting together an unprecedented, multiracial, multi-generational movement of millions of working people who are fighting for justice. And what that movement is about is saying that we need a government and an economy that works for all of us, not just the 1%. Now, some of you may have heard recently that the establishment is getting a little bit nervous about our campaign. And they should get nervous because we're going to win. And one of the new lines that we're hearing from the establishment is, Bernie can't win. Well, I say to those folks, take a look at the last 60 national polls that have been done. Bernie beats Trump 56 out of 60 times. Take a look at some of the polls in the battleground states like Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan. Bernie beats Trump. Now, we're going to beat Trump because we're doing something that has not been done in recent history. We are putting together a grassroots movement based on excitement, based on energy. We're bringing people into the political process who previously were not involved. You got millions of workers all over this country. They're working 2 or 3 jobs. They're earning starvation wages. They can't afford health care. And they have said, why should I get involved in the political process? Who cares about me? This campaign cares about you. This campaign is prepared to take on Wall Street and their greed. We're prepared to take on the insurance companies. We're prepared to take on the drug companies and lower the cost of prescription drugs in this country. This is a campaign that is bringing young people, black and white and Latino, Native American, Asian American, into the political process. And when you get working people involved and you get young people involved, we're going to have the largest voter turnout in the history of this country in November, which is what we need to defeat Trump. And this is a campaign that's going to win because we are a campaign of the working class of this country, by the working class, and for the working class. We don't have a super PAC. We don't need a super PAC. I don't go around to rich people's homes and beg money. We have received more campaign contributions from more Americans at this point in a campaign than any candidate in the history of the United States of America. And the reason for that is that the working families of this country understand that we are prepared to stand up to corporate greed and collusion. I've been all over this state, and I've talked to workers in South Carolina, and they're telling me they can't make it on $8, $9, $10 an hour. And that's why we're going to raise the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. I've talked to women who tell me they don't like getting 70, 80 cents on the dollar compared to men. That is why we believe in equal pay for equal work. Now, I know that the leadership here in South Carolina, your governor and the leaders in the legislature, they don't like unions. I like unions. There are millions of workers in this country who want to join a union. We're going to make it easier for them to do that. Double union membership in 4 years. We're going to create millions of good-paying jobs by rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure, and that includes 10 million units of low-income and affordable housing. This is America. We should not have 500,000 people, including 30,000 veterans, sleeping out on the streets of America tonight. And as Americans, we understand that the future of this country is with the young people. And that is why we believe in education. We believe in high-quality, universal, affordable child care for every working family in America. We believe that all of our kids, and this is a national issue, but it is an even more severe issue here in South Carolina. We believe that all of our kids, regardless of the income of their families, deserve a high-quality public education. And that is why we're going to triple funding for low-income Title I schools. I just spoke to earlier today a teacher here in South Carolina. She is working at 3 other jobs. She's a teacher, but in order to make a living, she's working for Uber. She's a waitress. In America, teachers should be focused on teaching, not have to work 3 other jobs. And that is why we're going to fight to make sure that all teachers in America receive at least $60,000 a year in salary. And because we believe in education, we believe that all of our kids, regardless of their income, have the right to a higher education, college or trade school, which is why we're going to make public colleges and universities tuition-free. And if Congress could give $1 trillion in tax breaks 2 years ago against my vote to the 1% in large corporations, you know what we can do? We can forgive all student debt in this country. And I'll tell you what else our administration is about. It's about ending the international embarrassment. And it truly is an embarrassment that the United States of America is the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people as a human right. Now, I live 50 miles away from the Canadian border. Somehow in Canada, they manage to provide quality care to all of their people, and they spend half as much per capita as we do. But it's not just Canada. It's France, it's Germany, it's the UK, it's Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Finland, you name it. If every other country on earth can guarantee health care to all of their people at half the cost that we're spending, don't tell me we can't do the same. Don't tell me we can't take on the greed and corruption of the pharmaceutical industry, who are charging us, in some cases, 10 times more for the same exact drugs sold abroad. I believe that the time is long overdue, given that we have been talking as a nation for over 100 years about universal health care. The time is now to stop the talk. The time is now for action. Whether the healthcare industry likes it or not, We are going to pass a Medicare for all single-payer program. No premiums, no deductibles, no co-payments, no out-of-pocket expenses. That's what Medicare for all is about. Now, we got a president who not only is an embarrassment to this country, frankly, is an embarrassment to the entire world. This is a president who thinks that climate change is a hoax. I think Donald Trump is a hoax. And our administration will listen to scientists, not right-wing extremists. And what the scientists are telling us is that climate change is an existential threat to our country and to the entire planet. What they are telling us is that the oceans and the sea levels are rising. And that means that great American cities like Miami, like Charleston, South Carolina, like Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, like New Orleans, like New York City, will be partially or maybe even completely underwater by the end of the century if we do not get our act together. Well, under our administration, we will get our act together. We're going to tell the fossil fuel industry that their short-term profits are not more important than the future of this planet. We are going to move forward toward a Green New Deal, which transforms our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy, and creates up to 20 million good-paying jobs in the process. And when we talk about things that have to be done in this country that are long overdue, we must reform a broken and racist criminal justice system. This is America. We should not have more people in jail than any other country on earth, including China, 4 times our size. This is America, and we are going to invest in our kids, in good jobs and education, not more jails and incarceration. And that means that right now, when we have 400,000 people in jail who haven't been convicted of a crime, but are in jail because they cannot afford bail, we're going to end cash bail in America. We are going to end private prisons and detention centers. And I'll tell you what else we're going to end. On day one, we begin the process of ending the war on drugs. On day one, we sign an executive order that legalizes marijuana in every state in this country. Now, this war on drugs has been incredibly destructive for so many people, especially the African American, Latino, and Native American community. And that is why we're going to move aggressively to expunge the criminal records of those arrested for possession of marijuana. And when we talk about systems that are broken, we are going to bring fundamental reform to our immigration system. On day one, we sign an executive order restoring the legal status of the 1.8 million young people eligible for the DACA program. On day one, we change our border policies so that federal agents will no longer be snatching babies from the arms of their mothers. And our administration will move aggressively to do something that should have been done decades ago. and that is to pass comprehensive immigration reform and a path toward citizenship. And when we talk about issues impacting Americans, we are all horrified by the level of gun violence in this country. And I know that South Carolina has suffered some terrible tragedies. So my promise to you is that our gun safety legislation will be determined by the American people, not the NRA. And that means universal background checks. It means ending the gun show loophole. And it means doing something that I have believed in for 30 years, and that is ending the sale and distribution of assault weapons in this country. Now, I'm a United States Senator, and I hear a lot of speeches on the floor of the Senate from conservative Republicans. And their mantra is that they believe in small government, they believe in getting the government off the backs of the American people. Well, I say to those hypocrites, if you believe in getting the government off the backs of the American people, understand that it is women who have a right to control their own bodies, not the government. And I want to speak to the men here today, because women now are under political assault all over this country. Men, stand with the women. They need your help. And my promise to you is I will never nominate anybody to the Supreme Court or the federal bench who is not 100% pro Roe v. Wade. Trump and his friends want massive cuts to Planned Parenthood. Well, we've got some bad news for them. We're going to greatly expand funding for Planned Parenthood. So here we are, brothers and sisters, one day before the South Carolina primary, a very important day in the political process. And this takes place in the midst of the most consequential election in the modern history of this country. So I'm here today to humbly and respectfully ask for your support tomorrow. I'm asking you to bring out your friends and your co-workers and your neighbors so we can have the largest voter turnout in the history of the South Carolina primary. And if your friends don't want to come out and vote, tell them you're tired of hearing their complaining. You're tired of hearing them moan and groan about low wages or the high cost of rent or the fact that they are $50,000 in debt. Tired of hearing about the fact that the government is doing too little on climate change. Tired of hearing them talk about all the racism and the sexism, the homophobia that they dislike. We are not now in the mood for complaining. We are now in the mood for action. And that is what we are about. We're not just a campaign, we are a movement. Trump wants to divide us up. We're bringing people together, black and white and Latino, Native American, Asian American, gay and straight. We are sick and tired of an economy and government that works for wealthy campaign contributors. We're tired of 3 people owning more wealth than the bottom half of America. We're tired of half of our people living paycheck to paycheck. We're tired of 500,000 Americans sleeping out on the street. We're tired of 45 million people struggling with student debt. We are tired of being the only country, major country on earth, not to guarantee health care to all or to have paid family, and medical leave. Well, we're tired, and when you're tired, you got to stand up, and you got to fight back, and you got to tell the billionaires in this country they're no longer going to be running our economy and our government. Now, here is the simple truth. As a United States Senator, I know the power of the 1%. Do not underestimate that power. They own the media. They have huge power over our economy, and they have huge power over the political process. Billionaires running for president, billionaires spending huge amounts of money on campaign contributions. They are enormously powerful, and I'm talking about Wall Street, talking about the insurance companies, the drug companies, the fossil fuel industry. I am talking about the military-industrial complex. They are very powerful, and do not for one moment underestimate their power. But this is what I do understand, and what I believe in my gut, is that at the end of the day, the 1% is 1%. And if we stand together and don't allow Trump and his friends to divide us up, if we keep our eyes on the prize, which is an agenda that works for working families, if we stand together, if we're prepared to stand up and fight, if we're prepared to bring people into the political process, all of the money in the world is not going to be able to stop us. So let us go forward tomorrow. Let us win the primary here in South Carolina. Let us win the Democratic nomination. Let us defeat Donald Trump. Let us transform this country. Thank you all very much.